Welcome to my personal archive. I am the Keeper. This isn't just a crime channel, it's a record of our fascinating inability to be normal. Here, we open doors that should have been locked forever and analyze the fingerprints that darkness leaves behind. If you seek comfort or easy answers, this isn't the place for you. But if you have the stomach for the naked truth, pull up a chair. I have the keys. Young-chul was born in 1970 in the barren womb of Korean society that mass-produces outcasts and exports them to the news. He grew up in a dysfunctional family, in a soul still scarred by post-war wounds. Nearly functionally illiterate, he lived off scraps from others, until he decided he preferred to create the scraps himself. He began his crimes with serial thefts. Intermittent arrests and low-level convictions only confirmed what he already knew. The justice machine has slow, loosened gears. It was in 2003, after serving time for sexual assault, that Yu decided to pursue a more definitive career. He would not go back, nor would he leave anyone behind. His motivation? Multifaceted, like a tumor. Hatred of women, resentment toward the wealthy, and a pathological need to dominate, not just physically, but spiritually, as he claimed, a way to purify society. Of course, serial killers love to give ideological varnish to what is pure predatory compulsion. His first target was a wealthy elderly woman. He broke into her house in the middle of the night, crushed her skull with a hammer, and fled with money and jewelry, a functional combination of sadism and profit. He saw it worked, he repeated it, always with the same pattern. Elderly couples or lone women, rich enough to justify the robbery, vulnerable enough not to fight back. Two blows in one mind, exterminate those he considered useless and enrich himself along the way. Yu became increasingly efficient, like any predator in mating season. In total, he killed 7 elderly victims between September 2003 and March 2004. Hammer and knife. Direct, cheap, and silent. The hammer was his signature. Clinical. Annoyingly effective. But soon, luxurious homes began to shut tight. Harder targets. Cameras, alarms, worried children. Yu realized what every good killer learns sooner or later. The prey needs to be easy. That's when he changed targets. Prostitutes, usually between 20 and 30 years old, located through cheap classified ads. Meetings set in low-budget Seoul motels. All vulnerable. All gone within hours, usually after meeting a man in a baseball cap, fake smiles, and a hammer hidden in his backpack. This time, he didn't just kill to rob. He eliminated, dismembered, dueled, and often burned body parts to hinder identification. When asked, he claimed prostitutes shouldn't exist, that he was cleaning up society, his own version of a divine inspector with homicidal tendencies. His efficiency was terrifying. 13 victims in less than 6 months. But pride always brings down the psychopath. Yu began to leave signs. He gave hints to the victim's companions, spread false leads, even mentioned his purification mission to acquaintances, romantic narcissism, and a desperate drive for narrative control. The killer fancied himself a screenwriter. In July 2004, police arrested him on suspicion of involvement with prostitution, a minor crime. During interrogation, he ended up confessing what he called his personal mission of selective genocide. In legal vocabulary, that meant 20 confirmed murders, maybe more. He stopped counting after the 16th. And who would stop after the 16th? He certainly didn't. During questioning, Yu displayed all the classic signs of malignant narcissism. absence of remorse, pleasure in describing the details of the deaths, and an unshakable belief that he was a moral force. When asked why he chose prostitutes and wealthy people, he replied, "Because they're the two rotten extremes of this society. One's useless because they sell their body, the other because they sell others." His psychological profile was studied as a rare case of hybrid psychopathy. He mixed predatory impulse with ideological rationalization. He killed because he wanted to, but justified it like a missionary. He revealed details with almost surgical precision. In some cases, he had diagrams with number of blows, minutes of resistance, even names with nicknames like Object 3 or Disposable Item 12, an engineer of chaos. The bodies were found in various conditions, some buried on mountain slopes, others burned in oil drums, others were never found. But the confessions checked out. The logistics were solid. The South Korean police, harshly criticized for their slow development of the killer's profile, had to admit they caught him by accident, not through investigative prowess. His ego did the work. The trial was swift. Yu was sentenced to death without possibility of appeal, but South Korea hasn't executed anyone since 1997, so he remains where he is, alive, breathing the same air as the victims who had no choice. A silent irony, a dysfunction of the very system he exploited. During one of the hearings, when asked if he felt guilt, he replied, "People like me are born because you failed as a society. I only cured the symptom." To this day, experts try to understand the true number of victims. Official numbers speak of 20 dead, but several disappearances remain unsolved, all fitting Yu's pattern. Some believe he may have started before 2003. Others suggest a theory of a network helping him dispose of the bodies. Never proven, but considering his operational efficiency, it's not so far-fetched. A hammer is light, but hiding a body requires strength and discipline. In the end, Young-chul is not just a South Korean serial killer. He's a reflection of what happens when justice fails at the roots and society marginalizes without oversight. He was invisible until he chose to be forcibly remembered, and he succeeded for the worst reason possible. Joji Obara liked control, absolute control. He was born in 1952 in Japan, the son of a Zainichi, a Korean minority on the archipelago, and heir to a fortune tied to the post-war era. Dirty money breeds darker fantasies. He grew up a second-class citizen in a country obsessed with order, and he found ways to maintain status using what Japan respects most: outer appearance. Fine tailoring, gold-embossed business cards, fluency in English. But behind the sophistication was a mind that filmed the collapse of his victims like someone collecting rare stamps. Between the 1990s and early 2000s, Joji Obara operated as a predator of surgical precision in Tokyo. He used false identities and presented himself as a cosmetics executive or real estate tycoon. Always polite, always rich, always interested in foreign women. His selection criteria were simple and functional: tourist or expat. Young, usually blonde, working as hostesses in Roppongi district bars. Vulnerable due to lack of social network, incomplete language fluency, and financial pressure. Isolated amidst the Japanese crowd, he invited them for a drink. Offered wine, overly sweet cocktails. The right verb is he drugged them. Midazolam or rohypnol, according to later forensic analyses. Drugs used to anesthetize before surgical procedures. But Obara was never a doctor, though he behaved like a shadow surgeon. At least 150 VHS tapes were found in his apartment. Almost all contained scenes of drugged and unconscious victims, calmly raped while he watched them coldly, as if expecting a clinical reaction. No emotion, just method. One of them was Lucy Blackman, a British citizen and former flight attendant. She was in Japan in 2000, selling drinks as a hostess to pay off credit card debt. Lucy vanished after telling a friend she was meeting a client for a beach outing. She was never seen alive again. Her disappearance caused an international stir. Lucy's father, Tim Blackman, flew to Japan and led a media campaign that exposed holes in the investigation. A missing blonde attracted far more attention than local victims. A painful irony. The other 400 missing women had no such narrative privilege. For 7 months, police had little concrete action. Obara was questioned superficially. He denied everything, of course. A classic profile. Doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, wakes up early, has money. One officer even described him as irreproachable. But the mistake appeared where it often does, in the trash. One of Obara's apartments was searched, and a notebook was found. In one note, a phrase written in English. "Ella est morte." She is dead. Unsigned, but too contextualized to be random. Obara began to be seriously investigated. They searched his properties and found the lair of a serial predator. Plastic-covered beds, expired anesthetics, manuscripts of tested drugs, and tapes, lots of tapes, all labeled with dates and victim numbers. No names, just codes. To him, they were samples. One of the tapes showed a young woman with the physical profile similar to Lucy's. She never woke up. Forensic analysis confirmed visual matches and bodily signs. Meanwhile, in February 2001, parts of Lucy's body were found in a coastal cave concreted inside a plastic drum. No skull, no fingerprints. But DNA confirmed the identity. Obara was arrested, charged with multiple rapes, drug possession, corpse concealment, and suspected homicide. But here comes the truly pathological part of the case. Lucy's murder had insufficient evidence. Yes, the court refused the murder charge for lack of direct evidence of the moment of death. The prosecution presented tapes, reports, toxicological data. But since there was no explicit confirmation of death by direct action in Lucy's video, the court hesitated. He was convicted for multiple serial rapes, corpse concealment, and corruption of women. He received a life sentence, but not for murder. Technically, Lucy died under his custody. Officially, she was just a body whose end remained in a legal gray area. It is estimated Joji Obara raped over 400 women between 1992 and 2000. Most never recognized their attacker, as they were unconscious. Some didn't even know they were victims. They'd wake up nauseous and with memory gaps. They'd laugh. Drank too much. Others developed gynecological illnesses. One suffered liver failure. Obara wasn't a sex maniac. He was an engineer of vulnerability. He tested doses, timings, chemical combinations. He took notes, like a researcher turning humans into a lab without progressive consent. In interrogation, he was cold, preferred silence to repentance. When he did speak, he limited himself to saying, "Many of these women lived on illusion. I only provided the substance they already wanted." Subtle sadism disguised as cheap philosophy. Today, Joji Obara serves a life sentence in Fuchu, a maximum security prison in the outskirts of Tokyo. Japanese justice requires good behavior for any theoretical chance of a sentence review. He doesn't speak, doesn't interact. A ghost with a lab record. The Lucy Blackman case exposed two distinct crimes: systematic rape and selective judicial incompetence. Only after the global media scandal did the police consider that Obara's signs outweighed his respectable appearance. The victim's family moved on as best they could. Lucy's father later negotiated a multi-million-dollar settlement with Obara's family, in secret. Her sister Sophie opposed it. She stated, "You don't negotiate with someone who grinds people. You negotiate with companies." Maybe Japan learned something. Or maybe it just socially recoiled. The crime led several Roppongi nightclubs to implement client tracking protocols. But no protocol heals a culture that blames victims for accepting drinks from strangers. Joji Obara wasn't invisible. He was just elegant. That's what made him easy to ignore. Because when the predator looks like a banker, no one checks the trail. Everyone trusts the suit. And maybe that says more about us than it does about him.